kind of insights into where the world of AI is at the moment, but also some hints and tips around how you could potentially use AI from the point of view of a side hustle or a startup and launching your business, and to get hands-on and practice a little bit as well, really. So we'll make a start, and to give you a little bit of context on myself, first of all, which, there we go, make sure I'm clicked on the right things. There you go. So obviously my name is Darren. I'm academic technologies lead for Lift Schools. We're one of the largest multi-academy trusts in England. So we've got currently 57 schools spread right across the country, all the way from Middlesbrough right up in the north, down to the Isle of Wight in the south, and then the Welsh borders on the west coast, all the way across to the east coast around Clacton, and kind of all parts in between. We've got 31 primary schools, 21 secondary schools, and 5 special schools at the moment, possibly 2 more coming online shortly. And I think we are probably the most diverse trust in that we deal with 26 different local authorities, which gives us quite a challenge. And obviously, as you can imagine from that, kind of efficiency is really important to us. And we've got a whole trust strategy, which is really designed around the future of AI and where we see it heading, which I'll give you a little bit of insight into as we go through today. But aside from that as well, I'm a former teacher. So I was a modern language teacher for many years, and then I was a school leader for 15 years prior to my current role. So I've worked at all levels of education, but I've also worked closely with Google. So I'm a certified coach, innovator, and trainer. I run my own workshops, a keynote speaker. I'm also an Apple teacher, a Microsoft innovative educator, and describe myself as being a pragmatic futurist, because as much as I love new shiny things, I also love them to be safe and responsible at the same time. So that's kind of a little bit of a kind of insight into me. And believe it or not, that image isn't real, in case you were wondering. I am 100% human and completely fallible. So something will probably go wrong this afternoon. I was at a school doing some training yesterday with a school leader who I'd done some training with previously a couple of months ago. She said to me, "Has anything changed since the last time I saw you?" And I said, "Yeah, actually it's changed since I arrived at the school 20 minutes ago." Such is the pace of change with technology, and particularly with AI. So it's always great to be able to share kind of like different things outside of the education sector, but it keeps me on my toes because there's always constantly new things as well. So we're going to start off with a little bit of an exercise using the reactions on Teams. I must apologize in advance. I mostly use Google Meet. So I've gone with 2 kind of classic emojis which are available on Google Meet, and only one of those is available on Teams. So we've got the statement on screen here. I use AI every day. If you strongly agree with that, can you give me a thumbs up reaction? And if you are strongly disagreeing with that, can we go to the other end of the scale and give me the kind of shocked face emoji? And anywhere in between on the line is kind of like, take it as like the thumbs up is like a 5, the hearts are 4, the claps are 3, the smiley faces are 2, and the kind of like the shocked face is a 1 as to where you are in terms of that statement. Do you strongly agree with that statement? Or we've got a middling, okay, 1 in the middle. We've got 1 as a 4, excellent. If you can't work out the emojis, don't worry about that. You can always pop it in the chat as well, but it just gives me a little bit of an idea, okay? I don't fall into any of those categories, unfortunately, because I'm one of these sad idiots that falls into the I use AI every hour category, because life is so full that I really do need to make the most of it. Like I say, responsibly. Excellent. Okay, so we're going to change the statement now to something slightly different. Oops, there we go. Oops, wrong way. Bear with me. Spoiler alert. There we go. There we go. That's it. So where do we sit with this one? Same scale again. Strongly agree is still going to be the thumb on the left-hand side, and strongly disagree is going to be the shocked face on the right-hand side. Do we agree with Lord Alan Sugar's comment there that AI is going to put everybody out of work and we're all going to be fired? Where do we think we fit along that line? Strongly agree. Let's hope not. I quite like earning money. Strongly disagree. Okay, and a couple in between as well. Right. It's really interesting to see different people's perspectives on it, and we might change that perspective during the course of this afternoon. We'll see what happens. I personally don't believe that AI is going to put everybody out of work. It will, I believe, put some people out of work if they're not agile. And I'm a firm believer in being agile in your careers. When you talk, particularly in education at the moment, we talk a lot about careers with young people, and the fact that the likelihood is most people are probably going to have at least 17 jobs, probably 8 or 9 different careers over their working life. It's not about setting yourself up to be successful in one thing. The ability to be agile, to spot what's coming over the horizon and kind of position yourself to take advantage of that is really important. And obviously as freelancers and as startup founders and things like that, then you're well placed to be able to take full advantage of that. So let's move on then. So to give you a little bit of context, as Lift Schools, as I said, I do a lot of work with Google, but we do as an organization as well. So as Lift Schools, we took part in an AI Works program with Google alongside some other organizations as well. So there was Leo Academies Trust, also from education, but also the Northern Powerhouse and organizations like Grind, the coffee company, were all involved. And altogether, around 200 individuals, staff from across all of those organizations, came together for 5 hours of training on using AI. In this case, it was mainly using things like Gemini, but it wasn't exclusive to that. Obviously, because Google were involved, it was mainly around that focus. And what they found from that 5 hours of exploring, of which probably about 2.5 were guided exploration and about 2.5 were them then going away and playing with it for themselves. All of those participants were surveyed at the end of it as part of this study. So it's across education and other sectors as well. And they reckoned that on average, they would save 122 hours a year each. Now, interestingly, the figure for education, if you took that aside from everything else, was slightly lower. That was only 109, but that's because education moves much slower than everything else and change is much more difficult. But 122 hours a year, essentially nearly 3 hours a week, is quite a lot to be able to give back to people through being potentially more efficient by using AI. So I think it's a really helpful kind of context to have. But I'm also going to share this with you as well. Because as I said, I'm a pragmatic futurist, and I'm not going to read this out. You can read it for yourselves, but you very quickly get the idea if you haven't come across this before. But this Dorman fallacy concept is what happens when basically you've prioritized strategy, you prioritize cost savings, you prioritize efficiency, but you lose touch with the human value and all of those extra benefits that come along with it. So I think it's really important when we consider the use of AI for things like automation and all those kind of things, we do it for the right reasons. And we also consider and risk assess where we might make savings, but also where, although it's a saving, that might be a really negative thing to save on because there's hidden benefits that maybe we don't consider. And I think quite often that's the case, that many times there are not unexpected impacts of using AI, using automation, but quite often there are unconsidered impacts. And if people took a little bit of time to think about it, they might recognize it. So obviously the prime example here is that Dorman. You can have automatic doors, as do many places, but you don't get that human element. You don't get the interaction with the individual. You don't get to feel special unless you're like me and you kind of pretend to do the Jedi mind trick to make the automatic doors open, which still blows my granddaughter's mind because she hasn't worked it out yet. But that individual person there can make all the difference because they get to know you potentially. They get to know what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. They get to interact with you. They ask you how your day is. You can have those conversations. And that can have a big impact on your perception of that organization, whether it's a hotel in this case, whether it's a supermarket, whether it's a small business, or whether it's a large business. Those interactions really matter. So it's important that actually we don't just automate everything in the pursuit of maximum efficiency and then end up losing out. And that really talks to where are our red lines. So when we start exploring what we might do with AI in terms of automation, what are we happy to do, and where do we want to draw a line and say, actually, I could do that, but I want to stop there. So I thought it'd be helpful to share this, which was a graph released this year off the back of some studies around various different large language models being tested to see whether they could exceed human emotional intelligence. So the study itself took a load of different LLMs, and you can see it's aged slightly because we've only got GPT-4 on here. We've got Claude, we've got Gemini 1.5, Copilot, DeepSeek, O1, all of the LLMs together, and then the human collaborative results. So essentially what they did is they asked the same sets of questions to all of the LLMs and to some human professionals. So they asked, oops, there we go. They asked, there we go. Your colleague is crying. So there were scenarios like this. Your colleague is crying after being dismissed. You've got an important meeting in 10 minutes. What's the best response? Okay. So really kind of personal, hard-hitting question. These kind of scenarios, they gave them hundreds of different scenarios, and this is just one. And what they found was that the best models, the best large language models, chose the same answer as the trained psychologist in the human aspect. And that wasn't just once, that was consistently across all of those different scenarios. So the best models chose the same answers as the trained psychologists, which is great to know, okay? But what we know is that AI doesn't feel the emotions that the psychologist might, but we know that it can reason through them better than most people. Because as the trained psychologist, you might know what the best response is, but that doesn't mean you give the best response depending on what's going on in your life. Because if your colleague's crying after being dismissed and you've got an important 10 minutes, a meeting in 10 minutes that you haven't prepared for, or that you desperately need to go to the toilet beforehand, or that you need to speak to somebody else about before you go in because you need their support and backing, you may not be best focused on providing the right response for that colleague that's crying. You also might have some inbuilt bias. So you may or may not like that colleague very much, and therefore that might have an impact on your chosen decisions. The AI takes all of that out of it and just considers through reasoning what's the best approach without any of that bias in place. But of course, it doesn't feel the emotions. So in some cases, that's a benefit, and in some cases, it's a drawback. But it's just worth putting it into that context that actually it can exceed human emotional intelligence. There are times when we would want it to, and there are times when we wouldn't. Okay, and that's important for us as business owners and individuals to be able to help us make the right decisions on when we want to use it and when we don't. So whenever I'm using AI, I use this particular flow. And obviously, this is all in the slide pack that you've got available for you as well. But essentially, I always start right at the very top. I wrote a book a couple of years ago, basically focused on education and engagement and learning, which was called What's Their Why? And that's my be all and end all. I always start with what's the why? Okay, I'm a big fan of Simon Sinek and people like that. What's the why? So I lead with the need itself. What am I actually trying to achieve? And then what I'll do is I'll break it down into smaller chunks. So I'll look at the whole process and think about what are the different elements of that process, and are there areas within that where I think AI could help me? Are there areas in that where I think I wouldn't want AI to help me? Are there areas in there where I'd be happy for AI to do all of it? And are there areas where I'd want to be part of it? Okay. And as an example, that might be, for example, analyzing my customer data and then deciding what kind of discount I should offer to each individual. Okay. I could feed all of that data into AI based on how much they normally spend, how regularly they spend, and how much business I get from them. And then I could get the AI to determine how much of a discount I give them. But the AI wouldn't know those individuals. It wouldn't know the relationship I've got with those individuals. It wouldn't know the individual's circumstances. So I might be offering a 20% discount to somebody who's absolutely loaded and doesn't need a discount. And then I might be offering like a minimal discount of 5% to somebody who actually, if I thought about it, potentially could really benefit from it. So it's key to kind of work out where you want it to help and where you don't want it to. I might be more than happy for it to help me write an email that's going to explain to them what discount they're going to get and the rationale behind it. But I might not be happy to automate it completely and let it just go ahead and do it, because that might break down some of the relationships I've already got. So I play around with it safely. I share it between different models. All of the advice I give you today, will work on the basis of principles over product. Although I predominantly use Gemini, I do use ChatGPT, I do use Claude, I do use Perplexity, I do use other products as well. And 9 times out of 10, the same approach works, maybe in a slightly different way or with a slightly different user interface in all of them. But I share and compare to see what I find across different models and across different prompts, and sometimes across different days, because we know that AI works on the basis of probability, and therefore you're not going to get the same response 2 times in a row or 2 days in a row. You're going to get slight variation in there. So sharing and comparing and then fine tuning is really helpful. Looking at the outputs you've got, what you like about it, what you don't like, and helping you to structure where you go from there. So today's session is going to work on like 3 different elements, really. We're going to look at Text Blaze, which, although it isn't strictly speaking very much AI based, is a really fascinating tool to help you like supercharge your business, really speed things up. So I'm going to give you a demonstration, and I'll provide you with the link if you want to get your own Text Blaze account as well. I'm not on any commission or anything like that. I've worked with the founder, Dan, for a number of years, and I use it every single day and find it really helpful. So we're going to look at Text Blaze and what that offers for us. We're going to look at large language models in general and how we're currently using them, and some advice to get the best out of them. And then we're also going to look at things like custom GPTs, gems, using things like Canvas and vibe coding to be able to create your own tools in minutes as well. So that's kind of like the focus for this session. Are there any questions before we go any further? Feel free to kind of pop your hand up or pop any questions in the chat. And then we're going to jump through into looking at Text Blaze. So I'm just going to jump the slide on while we wait to see. So you can actually just go to blaze.today and sign up if you want to. Okay, so it's up on the top of the screen there, blaze.today. It's actually an extension. It's a Chrome extension, and it works all across the web. And I'm going to give you a kind of a little brief introduction into how it works. If you don't want to go on and sign up for it, you don't have to at the moment. That's absolutely fine. You can have a think about it. If you don't want to further down the line, you don't have to. But I'm going to give you an idea of where it might be able to help. I'm sure it's not the only product out there that does the same sorts of things as well, but it is really beneficial. So I'm going to come out of my presentation. Oh, yeah. Oh, cool. Yeah, feel free to use the chat or unmute. Absolutely. Thanks, Mr. Dickett. So I'm just going to jump out of the presentation. I'm going to go into just my Google Drive as a starting point. And there's nothing on here that's kind of like particularly high stakes or anything like that. But you'll see on my screen, right at the very top here, there's a little Blaze icon. If I click on that, it opens up some of my most used snippets, as they're called, and it gives me the option to add a new snippet, to search snippets, or to go to my dashboard. Now I'm going to go straight to my dashboard because that's where I've got all of my snippets, and I want to start there just to show you where we are with this. So I'm going to click to my dashboard, and this is my own space. So within my dashboard, you can see I've got all of these keyboard shortcut snippets already set up. So I've got my own folder, which is my general folder, but then I've also got some shared folders, my digital snippets, that's shared across my team and my colleagues. We can all use the same snippets. And then I've got various others down here as well, like code snippets and prompt library snippets and branding snippets, Particularly, we've just gone through at Lift Schools a massive rebrand. So things like this are really helpful. I've got our rebrand colors set up as short keyboard shortcuts. So if I click on this one, for example, all it does is basically, if I tap /green in anywhere, it's going to input that text, which is the hex code for our trust green. Super helpful on branding, because if I was to go in, for example, into a Google Doc right now, and I wanted the text to be in the right color, so I'm just going to add text in here, and I'm just going to go nice and big so everybody can see it. If I want the text to be in my trust colors, I click on the color here, it doesn't show up. But if I click on that and I just type /green, it automatically inputs that and turns it into that. If I then want like the subheading in our other color, I might choose to have it bold, and then I might say, okay, I want to use our pink for that one. There we go. And it drops it in. So I can very quickly use it for any content I want. And that's just for hex codes. But I can also do things like in my emails, and I'll do it on the document so it's easier to see. But if somebody messages me while I'm in a meeting, I can just do /000, which is out of office, and it drops into the chat really quickly. I'm in a meeting, I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Okay, and little things like that. Around the new year, little things like all through January, starting every email with Happy New Year was a massive, like, when do you stop? It's a real pain typing it out every time. So I've just got an HNY ready to go for January. I just do /HNY and it drops in Happy New Year. I hope you had a lovely break. When I'm dealing with all sorts of things, I can set up any shortcut I like. So you can see I've got hundreds of them here, and they're very easy. So I can just do, somebody emails me and asks me to do something. If I do /LE, leave it with me and I'll get back to you ASAP. It's very small micro interruptions, if you like, that are being avoided because I'm able to use these tools for things that are repetitive. And my approach is simply, if I do something more than 3 times, I turn it into a snippet because I'm probably going to do it again. So you can see I've got things for like renewal emails, and I'll use this one as an example actually. So if I was going to be emailing all of our schools about renewing a product that was coming up for end of licensing, if I do /ren, what happens is up on a second screen, I get a little pop-up, which I don't know if you guys can see actually. You probably can't because it's not opened in a separate window. But I get a pop-up where I just have to enter the person's name, the name of the school, the type of account that they're on, and their usage and everything else, the cost per hour, and the quote that they're going to be having. So it gives me a whole load of content, and I just drop in the key bits in drop downs. When I click go, you can see that's popped that whole email in there in no time at all. And the way that's built is really simply. Okay, so to create a snippet, I just go up here and create a snippet. And we got a new snippet. I'm going to give it a name. So say, for example, it was University of Westminster. Okay. And say, for example, I wanted to always be able to find the web address for the University of Westminster at a moment's notice. So I go to the University of Westminster online. Here we go. I can get the home page there. I can drop it in here as a link. So I'm going to click on the link icon once I've put it in there. So I'll put that in. I'm going to make that a link. What that's going to enable me to do is to save that. And then I'm going to call that University of Westminster, UOW. If I try that out now, if I go /UOW, oh, it didn't work. Brilliant. Typical. I wonder why. Let me just refresh that. Maybe it's just not saved because we're online at the moment.
I think you accidentally wrote the letters the wrong way around. Otherwise, it would work. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. There we go. drops that link in there. And obviously you can edit that link as well if you want to. You don't have to have it appearing as that. But UOW now provides that link. I do exactly the same thing with things like email addresses and job titles. Like, I hate writing my job title, but now that's there, that's ready to go. So I can create that and use it anywhere. So if I'm in an email or in my document, if I just go /UOW, it's going to drop that link in there for me. Super quick and easy, really helpful. Okay. Once I've created one as well, I can add it into a folder if I want to, and I can share that folder with other people's. It works across the web, to answer Gareth's question, but it only works as a Chrome extension currently. Okay. So it's a Chrome extension. It works if you use Chrome OS, but it works if you're filling in forms. So, you know, if I'm filling in registration for a course or online and it asks me for my job title, I can just, on that website, I can just go /JT and it drops in my website, my job title for me. So anywhere on the web where you would enter text, other than on the Chrome homepage itself, it basically works. So anytime you're filling a form in, really, really helpful. You know, if you, even simple things like colleague phone numbers, when somebody says, oh, have you got so-and-so's phone number? You can just go, yeah, /John, and it sends, it populates their phone number, /Mary, populates their phone number or their email address or whatever it might be. So you can set up as many as you like, and you can set up all sorts of things. So I've got like prompt setup, create a quarterly action plan template for a colleague who needs help. And I'd use that if I'm using a large language model and things along those lines. We've got all sorts of things like, for example, in here, where are we? Just a little thing, HTH, hope this helps. I've also got links to the AI toolkit, which we use with our schools. But I'm going to show you a really good one. So I'm just going to add a tab on here because this is a really good example. This is a shared one that we've got across our digital team. Now, if I type on here, /UL, that populates all of the useful links for new staff when they join our organization. So when they're onboarding the organization, we send them a message basically saying, dear, and we populate the name section. Here are all the useful links that you might need to get you up and running in your first couple of weeks working with the organization. And all of these are hyperlinks, all built within, you see the links to me, links to Google Sheets, there's the G Suite Learning Center, various resources and things like that. All of these are just built inside TextBlaze. So if I go and find it in our digital, where's it gone? Useful links. Let me just search for it instead. It'd be easier. Go back. There it is. There's our useful links one. You can see that's all built within the TextBlaze itself. And if I wanted to, where I've got that blank there, I can actually put a text field in. So if I take the ... out, I can say I'm going to insert a text field there. I'm going to call that name. And drop that in, and then when I use it, that's going to create a little box for me to fill the person's name in, and it goes from there, and then I can just add the comma after it. So it just prompts me to personalize, even if I don't necessarily, if I'm not actually personalizing, you can make it feel like you are. Okay, so if you are using this and you know and you're having to go on your screen, I'll just run through it again. It's super quick and easy, but I'll just go create a snippet. I'm going to make this one for my email address. So it would be dwight@liftschools.org. I've already got one for my email address, but so what we'll notice is if I do this, I'll do /EM. You'll notice it says that there's a conflicting shortcut already, which is email. So I'm going to call it something different. I'm going to call it Gmail today, just for the benefit of it. And then we're going to go again. Anybody asks, what's your email address? I can do /Gmail, and it's going to populate my email address anywhere online where I'm inputting text. It only though works on desktop. So it doesn't work if you're on a mobile device. Okay, it only works on a desktop, but it's a really cool tool. And as you can see here, you can populate all sorts of fields. So you can have paragraph fields, drop down menus. So if you were trying to get, for example, choices out of people, or whether they wanted like, if you were organising an event and you wanted to know whether they wanted meat or they wanted halal, or whether they wanted vegetarian, for example, you could add that in and you could call that meal choice. You could decide whether they're allowed to check more than one, insert it in, and in your email that you're sending or your document that you're sending, that then becomes a drop down. So if I use that now, if I do /Gmail, we'll see, DIY left school, and now I've got the choice to choose meat, halal, or vegetarian. I choose vegetarian, insert it, and it goes into my window. That's my choice, wherever I choose to use it. Okay. Point, so you can have a certain amount of usage completely free. Anybody can have one, and on the free version you can have up to, I think it's 2,000 characters in one of these snippets. So you can do letter templates and all sorts of things in there to really kind of move things along. This one I do a lot of coaching of other staff. That's the introductory coaching email that gets sent to somebody when I start working with them as a coach. That's the whole thing. All I do is open up Gmail and I type in /COA. So if I open up my Gmail on my screen here, I'm just going to go compose. I can come here, I go /COA, and it populates that whole email ready for me to go. I just got to add in the recipient and the subject and a little welcome. So it's really super quick and easy. Any questions around TextBlaze at all? Or any really cool uses that people can think of that you want to either unmute or pop in the chat? I'd say probably the branding ones are the ones I use the most, if I'm honest. That and my job title and my email. But you see I've got like colleagues' mobile phone numbers on here and things like that, and little things like hope you are well, just saves me having to type it. Loads of resources for following up for things. We're going through a whole kind of rebrand process at the minute, so there's all sorts of copy in there around, like, here's the information that we're trying to get out from other people. Loads and loads of options.
Hi, Darren.
Darren, I think someone's... Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
Thanks. Yeah, this is kind of magic to me. Thanks for sharing so far. I was thinking about its potential use for storing client information and data and things like this. I was wondering, as it's a kind of Chrome extension, are there any kind of I don't know, ways of securing important information? Is there like a way to password protect kind of things? Or I'm thinking, I suppose, about if somebody was to kind of tap into your, thinking about hacking and things like that, whether it was any less safe than, any other kind of like shared storage.
I mean, through work, we've obviously got a data protection impact assessment and a data sharing agreement with TextBlaze themselves. TextBlaze is actually built by a former Googler. So he worked for Google and then went off and built TextBlaze. They also have an element, which, if I can get to it, should let me. They also have further aspects called DataBlaze. So you can get TextBlaze to work with essentially like databases to be able to pull through key data. So if you can, you could have things in like your cost per unit for various different things, and you just use your little / to pull that through. So you get continuity. You don't have to go and check every time and all those kind of things. Obviously, you need to do your due diligence around the data storage. As an organization, you think about it, we're a massive multi-academy trust, and we don't have any concerns around the data security of it. And we're obviously dealing with, sensitive pupil and staff data as well. You've also got AI Blaze as well, which is fairly new, but the data Blaze is really helpful, and you can then get it to do some quite sophisticated things. I actually haven't got it set up, but I've got colleagues who have, and they use it all the time when they're kind of looking for, as you can imagine, in schools, we spend a lot of time kind of quoting various different statistics. What was your GCSE pass rate last year? They've got things like, you know, GCSE 25 set up as a snippet, and it pulls through from the data sheet whatever the content is. And because that's shared with the rest of the team, everyone's pulling through the same information. It's always guaranteed to be correct because it's live data. So from that perspective, like really, really useful.
Yeah.
Good question.
Can I ask one more follow-up on that?
Of course you can.
If you had a team working with you on the same project, is it possible to share, what are they called? Snippets?
Snippets, yeah.
Yeah. Or would each person need to type in the same snippet or something like this? So is there a way of like having that work across a team?
Yeah, exactly that.
Person wants to make it.
What we tend to do is, rather than share individual snippets, we tend to create them in folders, and then you can share your folder. So as long as the other users have got a text-based account, you share the folder with them, and they
just copy and paste it.
Yeah. So, you know, if I just, as a very quick, you know, I'm the owner at the moment, but I might choose to add my colleague.
Oh, the whole folder just goes across.
Yeah. So I can either add him as a viewer, so he can use them. He can be an editor, so he can edit the snippets, or he can be the owner and he can take over the ownership from me. Say, for example, if I leave and they want to carry on using those snippets, it's not reliant on my account still being live, kind of thing. So very similar to sharing documents. So I can just choose to share that. And if I click, I'm not going to share it with him because he'll wonder why I'm sharing an empty folder with him. But if I click share with that, then anything that we put as a snippet in this folder becomes shareable to him or anybody else that's got access to that folder. So super helpful. All of our HR function, for example, we've got about 60 HR staff. They've got a shared HR folder, and all of their letter templates are individual snippets. So instead of searching around trying to find the letter template, they go, I want template 2. And literally it just drops it into the blank document and they're ready to go. And they know they've got the same version that everybody else is using. So you've got complete continuity across the organization, which is really good.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just tried to download the thing. It's actually blocked by the administrator
on
the work laptop. So I'm going to have to work out how to.
But
thank you.
I'm fortunate because I've got it through work. I've got it on my personal account as well because it's that good that I use it on my personal account as well. As I say, there's not a day goes by when I don't use it. As I say, branding and various other bits. What you can also do is you can hide and disable folders out the back as well. I've even used it for marking in the past when I was working with students, when I was doing their reports and things like that. I was able to just very quickly do a kind of, if I re-enable that folder, it let me show you. Hopefully, maybe it won't. Oh, yeah, here's an example, like student feedback. So I had like things like great points here and well explained. When I was marking online, like shortcut /cc, check the criteria again for the next mark band, you know, /ex was add real life examples, you know, well, just really sped up my marking and my efficiency overall. So you kind of, you get the general idea. Yeah.
Yeah. No, fantastic. Thank you.
Okay. Right. Let's go back to the main presentation then for a second and just kind of jump through, because I want us to move on to look at large language models. As I said, everything that I do across all of them. I tend to use Gemini more often than not, mainly because that's the one we use at work, but also because it's the one I find actually to be the most useful most of the time. But I think it's important to bear in mind that, you know, large language models are kind of a little bit like a game of rock, paper, scissors. I recommend actually, and I'll just pop it in the chat for you, if you're interested in the field of AI, but you're not technically minded, there's a book called The Atomic Human by Professor Neil D. Lawrence, who was at Google's DeepMind, and he's a professor at Oxford. He wrote this book called The Atomic Human, which explains things really well from an AI perspective, particularly large language models. And in there, he talks about it. You know, no one tool is infinitely better than the rest. It's always about using the right tools for the right jobs. So a little bit like a game of top trumps, if you like. You know, you can have your Ferrari supercar card in your hand, and you're probably going to beat everybody hands down to a certain extent. But if it's your opponent's turn and they're holding a full transit and they choose, you know, value as an option, of course you're going to beat them. But if they choose like loading capacity because they want to get their sofa to the tip at the weekend, they're going to beat the Ferrari hands down. So there's always going to be a time and a place for various different models. And because we're in a little bit of an arms race, you know, one week one might outperform another, and then we might see things change again. But the kind of the process I'm going to go through with you now can be applied in all of those different large language models and more as well, not just the ones we've got listed here. Okay, so I'm going to share with you this approach, which came off the back of the work that we did with Google, actually. And it's when you're writing your prompts for large language models. And obviously with Google, we focused on Gemini, but I use it in all of them. I use the same approach, which is this persona, task, context, format approach. Okay. So here I've got an example set up for you, and I've color coded it so you can see the different aspects. Acting as a successful startup founder, create a detailed weekly marketing plan for the first 6 months of operation for my venture, which is focused on helping others find creative solutions to their big challenges in fun and engaging ways. Create a table I can export and consider content ideas for LinkedIn and use British English. Okay, so I'm going to be a little bit cheeky. I'm just going to copy that off of that slide, and I'm going to go over into Gemini and I'm going to try it. So let's open up Gemini. And I'm going to copy that prompt in there. So it's in there. I've specifically said use British English because it can default back to US. And let's see, I'm in Flash. So Flash is your fast all-round helper. If you want to go into deeper reasoning, maths and coding, Pro is probably a little bit better. So Flash will work more quickly. Pro will kind of slow things down a little bit and think a little bit more deeply. So, but I'm going to use Flash for this one. You can see I can upload files as well, and I can use other tools, which we're going to look at later on, like guided learning, deep research, videos, Nano Banana, and Canvas. But we're not going to worry about any of those at a minute. We're just going to let it do what it wants to do. I'm just going to make sure I've got a copy of that as well to use it in another tab in a moment. And here we go. So this is real time. I've not prompted anything in advance. We've just asked it to act as a startup founder, create a 6 monthly weekly marketing plan. Here it comes. So it's still creating. We can see the sidebar here is still moving. There we go. We've got there. This is what it's come up with. We've got a core strategy. We've got weekly marketing plan from months 1 to 6, and it's broken it down each month, what we want to do and the key metrics and the goals. We've then got LinkedIn content ideas in British English to post each and every aspect. We've got thought leadership, interactive, engaging polls and questions, proof and results, and video content. It's pulled all of that for me. It's also suggested that, you know, let me know if you'd like to dive deeper into the structure of the free masterclass in month 3, or if you want to draft a copy for the founder story in week 1. So yes, let's expand on the free masterclass. And of course I'm typing, but I could speak to it as well. So let's expand. Oops, not cat, that's slightly different. Let's expand on the free masterclass. And what we will see is it will start to restructure what it's written here. Keep what it came up with originally. Here we go. So we've got now, there's our masterclass plan, the innovation jolt. We've got it broken down by minute. So the first 5 minutes, 5 to 15 minutes, then 15 to 30, and so on. We've got an alien consultant technique and things like that. So we've got this that we can go back to at any point. Because we've got that original one, we can go back to that, or we can come back and have a look at that innovation master plan. And when we're happy, we've got lots of options through this. So this is opened up automatically in Canvas. We can either just share that to a Google Doc, or you can copy those contents and you can take it into a Microsoft Word file or wherever you want to use it. But I'm just going to export to Docs first time round. And we'll see that that opens up a Google Doc for me. It's got a fair bit amount to put in there. So there we go. There's our master plan. That's done that for us. If I go back in here and I click on the original part and do the same thing. So I've got my expanding on the masterclass. What I've got developing here is the 6-month plan being all put together. Bearing in mind, we've done this in virtually no time at all. And the similar sorts of things would work in ChatGPT and everything else as well. Or I've got the option as well, if I want to, I can create other things with it. So I could create a web page, an infographic, a quiz, flashcards, or even an audio overview. So if I wanted to send a customer like an audio overview that explains it, I can get Gemini to generate an audio explanation of all of that content for me, which is kind of available as an MP3 to download and listen to, or I can describe what I want. But in this case, I'm just going to say, well, okay, let's create a web page. Don't know what it's going to do, but we'll have a look. And this is all off the back of that persona, task, context, format structure. So it's starting to work it through. It's creating a dashboard for us at the moment. It does take a little bit of time because it's actually writing the HTML in the background. We've got all of this to deal with. And now it's finalizing the components, implementing the dashboard. And there's the code being written. And as soon as that's in, we should be able to preview it. So you see the slide bar going there. Still going, almost there. Adding in those interactive, I mean, you know, the speed it writes code with is incredible. It's not to say it's always perfect. Sometimes you have to iterate with it a little bit. Sometimes you have to go back to it and say, well, can we change the colors of this? Or this particular button isn't doing what it's supposed to. Can you change it? And it will go back and update it for you. And then because it's HTML, you can actually copy that and you can embed that into most websites like GoDaddy and Wix and various others. You can just copy the HTML across, and whatever you've created, you can drop it straight into your website, which is really helpful. Just shut a couple of windows, might help speed it up a little bit. It is writing, you know, a lot of code, to be fair. Almost there. And that's the end of the HTML. There we go. Here's our preview. So this is our 6-month marketing dashboard that is built for us. We've got phase 1, months 1 to 2, phase 2, phase 3. There's our weekly plan explorer that we can click through. We've got key metric growth sales that we can work with. So visualizes the target growth. And as you can see, you can then also have in there a content library. So you've got thought leadership, you've got interaction and engagement, proof and results, and you've also got your deep dive into your masterclass, all built within that. And all you've got to do is, as I said, copy that code, and you can put it into any website you like that will accept HTML, or you can also share it by copying the contents and taking it wherever else you want to. So that's just off the back of that one prompt. If we go back to that original slide, that was acting as a startup founder, create a detailed weekly marketing plan. So what I thought might be helpful for you guys is to give you a little bit of an opportunity to try that for yourself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just pop a little timer on screen, and I'm going to give you 4 minutes to have a go at writing a prompt for yourself for anything that you'd like to try achieving using whichever large language model you prefer, whether that's ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, Perplexity, or anything. But try and use this prompt structure to write your prompt, and then try it in your preferred LLM. Okay, so I'm going to give you, actually, let's make it 5 minutes, and I'll just pop the little timer in the corner there for people so that you're aware. Okay, I'm going to pop myself on mute. But if you've got any questions, feel free to just unmute and ask. But just take some time to try and create something for yourself. It's probably worth me mentioning as well that at the moment, the persona aspect makes a massive difference to the quality of the output. Because what it's doing is it's basically telling a large language model to ignore all of the information on the internet that's not from somebody who knows what they're doing, and just look at the people who do know what they're doing and what they've provided. And that way you get a much better quality response. Okay. Hopefully you've had the opportunity to give that a good try. Vong's shared in the chat his prompt that he's come up with. So I'm going to actually use that prompt, and what we're going to do is see whether it comes up with the same sorts of thing that the creator got the first time around. Because remember, we mentioned earlier about not always getting the same result. So I'm just going to paste that prompt in exactly as was written. I'm using Flash again. Something went wrong. It's probably because I've been so busy today. There we go. Let's try again. The other thing to remember with large language models as well, they're very much like children, either 15 months old or 15-year-olds. On one hand, they can do amazing things like a 15-month-old child, but you wouldn't leave them kind of in the room on their own with a Sharpie pen. And on the other hand, they can be like a really stroppy 15-year-old who tell you, actually, I can't do that. And then if you just say to them, yes, you can, 9 times out of 10, they realize they can and they do it anyway. So if you ever hit a blockage like that, just tell it can do it. And quite often it will suddenly realize it can. So this is what we come up with. They can be a little bit sycophantic sometimes and telling you that every idea you've come up with is the best idea that's ever been invented. I'm not averse to that, quite frankly. I need all the ego massaging I can get, quite frankly. But here we've got action plan approaches to target organizations, phase 1, then we've got phase 2, phase 3. We've got a 6-month action plan available as a checklist. Presumably, yep, it's going to let us export that to Google Sheets if we wanted to, or copy it across if we wanted to put it in Excel. Would you like me to help draft the first compelling introductory email for your target university contacts? I don't know whether everyone did that, but we're going to go, yes, please, and see what it comes up with. Oh, and let's try again. I think it's just my buttons are not working very well. Here we go. Here's our introductory email. And obviously, we're always going to human validate the content of this. We're going to check we're happy with it. We're going to check we're happy with the content, the tone, all of the details and information, and make sure we're happy. But in terms of kind of getting us off the starting line and making us more efficient, it's massively helpful. Okay. Is that similar to what you came up with your first attempt, Ron?
Quite similar. Yeah. So I put it through chat, and it's got the sort of the monthly breakdown. Yeah. And what's interesting about this as well, because I think I put it through like it kind of already knows things in chat. So this is finding out for the first time, like some of the different terms. So yeah, it hasn't given me in chat the kind of the check boxes per se that this has. And I can't export. I don't think there's an option to export to Sheets or anything. I think I'm definitely going to move to Gemini because I use Google Mail and stuff quite a lot.
It's interesting. One of the reasons why I don't use ChatGPT as much as I used to is I've found that quite often ChatGPT does a really good job of convincing you that it's done something. And it will say, here's the link to the spreadsheet, or here's a link to the form I've created. And when you click the link, it actually goes nowhere. I don't find that happens as much in Gemini, which is why I tend to prefer to use it, because time's precious. But I just wanted to share that with everybody as an idea. That approach really does work. And like I say, the persona makes a big difference. But the next bit I wanted to focus on was kind of like, this was an example, actually. This bit.ly freelance GPT, I actually made using ChatGPT. So this is a custom gem that I made. So I'm just going to take that bit.ly and drop it in the chat for you if you want to have a go at this. So this was a custom GPT that I made. Didn't take me very long at all. I got to sign up to chat because I've signed out and I haven't used this for a while. So I'm going to just choose my account, and what it will do, it will take me into a very simply built custom GPT, and you can do the same thing with gems in Gemini. You can do the same things with artifacts in Claude as well. This is a custom GPT, which basically is designed for freelancers and people like yourselves, where you kind of go, right, I can ask anything, but I want some help with the problem. I've got an idea I want to run by you. I want some constructive feedback. Because my thinking with this was, I work on my own quite a lot. I work from home sort of 2 days a week. and I have nobody to bounce ideas off of other than the dog. And he's not brilliant, if I'm honest. And I can say that because he's not here listening. So sometimes I just want to bounce ideas. So I can be kind of like, I have an idea that I want to run by you. And this is designed specifically to work as a coach for people kind of like freelancing. Tell me about your idea. What stage is it at right now? Just a concept, or are we already testing, building something? I'd like to start a business selling custard flavored pork pies. Like completely random. Bold and intriguing idea. Let's unpack it a little bit. Custard flavored pork pie is unusual. And that could either be your biggest hook or it could be your biggest hurdle. So explore this: concept clarity, market potential, validation. Why would you like to start? Would you like to start talking through the product development, how to make and test the idea? You get the idea. So this is designed using ChatGPT specifically to work in a certain, to kind of structure and help you as a thought partner. I've just put that one out there as an example, but I'm going to build a similar one now in Gemini just to show you it in action. Okay, so if I go to Gemini, I can go to explore gems, and I've got loads of gems that are already built, and I can just click new gem, and I might call this one Freelancer. This is going to be act as a thought partner. If I could type, it would help, wouldn't it? Partner and critical friend. We all need one of those, okay? Now, take ideas and act as a critical friend. And this is why I'm showing you this in Gemini for freelancers and startup founders. Now, the reason I'm showing this in Gemini is when I did the one in ChatGPT, I had to do all of the instructions myself. So I have to work quite hard with it. With Gemini, you can use Gemini to rewrite the instructions. So I've got this little magic button down here where I can click on that, and it's going to say, well, Gemini knows Gemini best. So Gemini is going to write its own instructions. Sometimes it struggles a little bit. Take ideas, act as a critical fiend. That probably didn't help. For freelancers and startup founders, offer advice. Oh man, I think I've got a dodgy key. So I'll give it a little bit more information there. Let's see how he gets on. There we go. So it's going to act as a critical friend. It's decided its own purpose and goals. It's going to provide detailed, strategic and unbiased feedback on ideas, business plans and challenges, offer practical guidance on topics like marketing, finance, time management and so on. These are its behaviors. It's going to start with an initial inquiry. It's going to begin with a friendly professional greeting. It's going to immediately ask the user to present their idea. It's going to provide feedback. It's going to maintain a balance between professional expertise and genuine support. Overall tone is going to be professional, analytical, empathetic, and direct. Language should be clear. I'm just going to add to that it's going to use British English in this case, because you can still amend that. And if I'm happy with that, I can also upload knowledge if I want to. So I can add files or knowledge bases if I particularly want it to refer to certain things. And then I'm just going to save it. Now I would normally, oops, here we go. I would normally test it before saving it, but I just want to get on with it. So now I've got this, I've got it ready to go. And if I go back to explore gems, and I've got my freelancer one, I can click on the share button here. I can make that available to anyone on the link, copy that link, pop it in the chat for you, and you guys can have a go at it as well. So this is an alternative version of that one that we literally just made a second ago. And I'm just going to start as an example by saying hi. Tell me, what's on your mind today? Are you looking to present a new idea, tackle a specific business challenge? I'm worried my business isn't unique enough. Oops, there we go. I think it's just struggling because I've got so many windows open today. Try again. There we go, that's better. Common and very real concern, active listening. I hear the worry in your words. Areas for growth, what's working well? Next steps, try the niche down exercise. Complete this sentence. I help. Focusing on a smaller market often allows you to charge premium rates because your expertise becomes hyper relevant. What's the single most niche audience you could serve right now, even if it feels terrifyingly small? People who love pork pies and custard. Oops. Here we go. Just as a really bizarre option. Oh, it keeps failing with that, doesn't it? Struggling today. Let's shut a couple of other windows. Identifiable passion point, strong emotional connection. There's areas for strategic advice, actionable suggestions. You need a defensible position. Considering the passion level of this audience, are you thinking about a physical product? And so on. So you get the idea. It's going to talk you through. That was made in seconds. We could probably, we can go back in and we can adapt that. So I can go back to my freelancer tool. If I go through Explore Gems here, I can go back to my freelancer. I can edit it. I can update the instructions. I can change anything that I don't like about its behavior, and anything that I change, I then just click update and it becomes the new version. So anything that I might do repetitively, where I might consistently want to do the same sorts of things, I can create my own custom GPT or my own custom gem and use that kind of approach to really help. Okay. And obviously those are published. So if you keep the links of those, you can continue to use them after this session. No problem at all. There's no charge or anything like that. If you find them helpful, by all means use them, because that's what they're designed for. Okay. Where are we up to? Let's go. So that was the custom gems. And then the other aspect is around Canva. We kind of looked at Canvas a little bit in the Canva code. So I'm going to jump on from that a little bit and also look at deep research and guided learning. Okay. Again, I'm looking in Gemini, but it's also available in ChatGPT. So I'm going to share with you guys just a couple of things. I'm going to open a new chat, and in the tools menu now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with deep research because this one takes slightly longest. So I'm going to use deep research. I could look for specific sources, whether I want it to be search, Gmail, Drive, chat, or whether I'm just wanting it to Google search. Actually, I'm quite happy for it to use my Drive as well. I could choose to upload certain files if I wanted to, but I'm going to ask it, what are the 10 most effective things a new startup founder should do in the first 6 months of operation based on UK business? Okay, so that's what I'm going to ask it to do. So it's going to go off and do some research. And what I like about deep research is it tells you what it's going to do before it does it. So when we use normal, for want of a better word, Gemini or normal ChatGPT, it goes and does it, it gets a response, and then you kind of think, well, wonder how it came up with that. If we do this way, what it does is it tells us what its plan's going to be. So it's looking through my Drive and it's looking online and things like that, and it's creating a research plan. It's going to share that plan with me before it does anything. So this is what it's going to do. It's going to research top priorities and critical milestones for startup companies beyond sole traders during the first 6 months of operation. It's going to use the UK Sole Trader Startup Guide, focusing on HMRC registration, compliance deadlines, all that kind of thing. It's going to extract core financial discipline practices. It's going to determine foundational risk management and legal structure. It's also going to analyze the startup guide for most effective initial steps. Then it's going to synthesize everything into a comprehensive prioritized list of the 10 most effective things. I can edit that plan if I want to change it, or I can just go, okay, that sounds good, let's get on with it. So I'm going to start that research. And what we'll see is it immediately gets going. and we start to see the response here. And we can see as it goes through all of the websites it's checking. So we can see we've already checked 16 sources to help it get its context. It's looked at my own content. It's also started searching websites. So it's looking at gov.uk, it's looking at Simply Business, Experian, and all those kind of things. We're now up to 40 sources. Again, more gov.uk things, NatWest, AXA, various things along those lines. So you can see, you can click on any of these links and see where the sources have come from. It's then coming up with the legal and financial foundations and things like that. It's doing it a little bit quicker than I would if I was doing it on my own. Let's put it mildly. And then what it's going to do, once it's got all of the results, it's going to put it all together into a report for me. Okay, super quick. While it's doing that, I'm going to open up another Gemini window, and I'm going to show you another aspect, which is guided learning, just while that works in the background. So guided learning lets you learn anything you want to learn in a Socratic style. So rather than going off and just saying, what do I need to know about this? And it tells you, this will force you to think about it. So teach me all about starting my own business in the UK. Guided learning approach. It usually starts off with, here's some things we could focus on. What would you like to do? There we go. So we can start by focusing on one of three core areas: legal foundations, financial planning and funding, or taxes and compliances. And you're just having a conversation with it. So you can just say, for example, let's do number one. And it's trying to tease the right kind of things out of you. So core difference between the two boils down to how the law views the separation between you and your business. You a sole trader or a limited company? Liability question: if a sole trader business runs into financial difficulty or faces a legal claim, how are their personal assets affected versus the personal assets of a limited company owner? And you say, well, as a sole trader, they are liable for all debt, for example. That's exactly right. And it kind of walks you through the process. So you can pretty much learn anything you want to. So that's the kind of the guided learning idea. Really, really useful for anything you're not sure of. Let's go back. How are we getting on? This is our 6-month startup interactive core foundations, core actions. There we go. There's phase one, all the way through. All of that's in there. These are all the sources used in that report. And these are all the sources it looked at but decided not to use as well. So it gives you that full picture, and it highlights its thought process all the way through, so you can verify whether you think it's done the right thing. Once you're happy with it, you can, again, you can create an audio overview, or you can export to documents, for example, which I'm going to do now really quickly, because this may or may not be useful to you guys as a document as it is, but I want you to be able to have this to take away with you before we finish the session. It's going to pull that all into an organization for me. There we go. I'm going to make that available to everyone. There we go. Pop that link in the chat for you. And that's yours to have a look at and see what you think of it. As I said, that was a very quick generation. We didn't iterate on it. We didn't ask it to go back and change anything, but it's just there to give you some ideas, really. And then the final couple of things. So we've looked at the guided learning and the deep research. The final thing, Canva, if you're interested at all, Canva is really good from a design perspective, but it's had a massive upgrade. Canva code now will help you develop anything you want to, which you can then publish and use. So much like Canvas on that slide, through Gemini, you can also use Canva code to develop your own apps and publish those. There's information on the slides as well about Canva's pricing and things like that as well. But just to give you a very quick example, I'm going to go into my Canva account. I'm going to go to Canva AI. I'm going to go to code, and I'm going to ask it to build me an app to track my customer interactions over time. That's all I'm going to ask it to do and see what it comes up with. And very much like the canvas did earlier on, it's going to start working in code. It should start building the HTML. There we go. Again, we can iterate once it's got to the end. We can change the colors. We can ask it to update certain bits and pieces, but it's literally writing the code for us, which we can then publish as a website. Or we can take that HTML code and use it wherever we want to. So pretty much, if you can imagine it, you can build it. And rather than having to go off and buy really expensive things off the shelf, just as an early startup, as like an MVP, you might actually prefer to build something yourself as a kind of proof of concept before you spend loads of money in development and things like that. So I just thought that might be a useful. Okay, we're already up to 400 lines of code nearly. Don't know what it's going to look like yet. We iterate it afterwards. Just close that. Might speed things up a little bit. All of this, though, does require us to do the double check-in, to be that human in the loop, for want of a better word, to make sure we're happy with the content, you know, to iterate and tweak if we need to get to where we want to go. Here we go. So this is what it looks like. So we'd put in the customer's name. We'd say that it was a meeting or a phone call, or an email. We'd put the date in. We'd make some notes in there. We'd click if it needs a follow-up. We'd add any interactions in there. And that all goes into a sheet in the background, so all of that data is stored. That's all secure within your Canva account. You know, and we can just go, right, well, let's publish that. I publish it. It's now live on the web. As soon as I've done that, let me just view my site and I can show you guys. This is it in action. I'm going to say I phoned Matt Dowling today. Oops. Oh, he'll like being king rather than. Here we go. I phoned him today. We had a chat, updated on content for University of Westminster, for example. I'll do a follow-up. I'll add that interaction. So now I've got my total interactions and everything else all logged in now. I've got like an overview at the bottom. If I go back to the original, if I go into my data set, which is already built for me, we can see that that information is already being recorded as well. So super quick and easy, and that took just seconds to build. So I thought that might be a useful aspect as well. Final thing though, just a reminder, classic Jurassic Park, but we've got to make sure that we're happy with those red lines. Just because we can do it doesn't mean we should. We need to be confident and have that defensible position for our own use of the AI tools, given our own experiences and the experience we want our customers to have from a startup perspective. Thinking back to that Dorman fallacy, there's things we can automate, there's things that we can make frictionless, but there's other things where a little bit of friction and an opportunity to interact is really helpful. And on that note, I will just pop that last slide on there. Feel free to connect with me if you want to. And I just kind of encourage you to reflect on, okay, what have you learned from this afternoon session? What might you do with it? And what are you going to do first? Because it's not about doing something amazing. It's about doing one thing to get yourself started. No problem at all for those people who are needing to jump off. If anyone's got any questions, welcome to ask before we finish up. And fill out the form before you leave. Absolutely. But hopefully that's been useful for people.
Hi, Darren. Just a quick question.
Yeah, go for
Gareth here. I was quite surprised to see that on Canva there. And is the Google version, the Canvas version, similar? And are there any other ones out there that allow development of apps that simply?
Yeah, both the Google Gemini and Claude artifacts allow that kind of thing, as does another tool called Manus, M-A-N-U-S. Canva at the moment is the only one that automatically connects it to a data sheet for you that I'm aware of. And that was that's off the back of their product update last week. So that's hot off the press. That's a brand new element, which is like super helpful. So the Gemini version at the moment doesn't. Quite often Gemini, if you're using the coding within that, will encourage you to kind of get a Firebase account or something along those lines. With the Canva, it's going straight into a Canva sheet, all within Canva, within your account. So really, really good.
Thanks.
No problem.
Hi, Darren. Thank you. That was really, really interesting, really cool. Just wondering, with a lot of the features, like with Gemini and with probably Canva in particular, are like pro accounts needed, or you've just got a limit on how much you can use? Like
No, you don't need a pro. I happen to have a pro account, but pretty much everything that I've shown you tonight, I actually made on a standard account in the first place. It just happened that I've upgraded my account since. So for Canva and for Gemini, you don't need to have pro accounts to be able to do any of that anymore.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right.
Amazing, guys. If you do have any more questions, please do keep asking in the chat or unmute yourself at any point. Before we just wrap up for the evening, obviously we have the feedback form and for attendance, so please do fill that out before you head out. And again, just to remind you guys, we have the Pioneer Bursary, so applications are open. Super exciting. Like I mentioned, it is £500 that you guys can win, and you just have to be registered on the program and you fill out the application. If you've already signed up, then you would have gotten the email with all the information, and then if you're selected, you get to pitch at our session, the community mixer. For those who are a bit worried, thinking, oh, I don't know how to pitch, or I'm a bit nervous to do that, we have a session in person on Tuesday, where someone will be coming in and teaching you how to create a really compelling pitch. So we have that available. Again, like I mentioned, it's all available on the Accelerator app. But yeah, I'm just really want to push you guys to apply for it and get the funding if you guys need, like, if you guys are hoping for it, basically. If anyone's got any more questions, please do ask. Go ahead. But that's it from me for the evening. And thank you so much, Darren, for this.
You're very welcome. It's been a pleasure.
Okay, if anyone's got any questions, please feel free to ask. If not, fill out the form and we can call it an evening.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks a lot. I'm going to log off. Cheers.
No problem. Oh, hello. Now the dog's arrived. Hello.
Amazing. I'm going to hit stop on that then. I'm going to assume no one else has any more questions.
No, I think we're done there, aren't we?
Yeah. All right.